Hi, my name is Ted. Sometimes truth is stranger and maybe even sometimes scarier than fiction. The story you are going to hear about today is true. Less than 100 years ago, Jack Coe became a world-renowned faith healer, claiming to heal thousands. Jack Coe was one of 7 children growing up. When he was 5 years old, men came to his house and removed all the furniture. You see, his father was an alcoholic who liked to gamble, and during his normal losing streak in gambling, he lost all his furniture. Shortly after, their house went as well. Now, his mother couldn't deal with this, so she took one sister and left Jack and all the others with their drinking and gambling father, who himself was unable to deal with having so much responsibility. So he sent Jack and an older brother to an orphanage. Not long after, his brother ran away. He was hit by a car and he died. When Jack was 17, he moved out of the orphanage and started drinking heavily, eventually becoming an alcoholic. He drank so much that he got ulcers, and his doctor told him that he was near death. It looked like Jack was becoming a mirror image of his father and would probably have ended up just like him. Except one day, he visited a Nazarene church, and he dedicated his life to Christ. A year later, after he visited a Pentecostal meeting, he experienced the baptism of the Holy Spirit, and he began studying in an Assemblies of God school. In 1941, at 23 years old, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and Jack, like so many his age, wanted to do something about it, so he joined the Army. After the service, he pursued ministry in Texas as an ordained Assemblies of God minister. But his ordination with the Assemblies of God did not last long. Like so many charismatic and NER leaders of today and of the past, he liked to exaggerate his accomplishments and his miracles. The Assemblies of God leadership had their fill with such ministers, claiming such great things and misleading followers with questionable teachings. So looking at Jack's ministry, they saw that he antagonized the Dallas civil authorities. He took advantage of his following by spending donations on extravagant lifestyle, and they let him go. Now today, this would be called living out the message of prosperity gospel. After only 8 years of ordination with the Assemblies of God, Jack Coe was rejected by his own denomination. And in return, he denounced the Assemblies of God and their officials. Now, despite this rejection of support, and maybe because of this rejection, Jack grew in popularity. Others, such as William Branham, during the same time period, sneered at old school Pentecostals, claiming that they had lost the spirit and the power of God. Through grand storytelling of great accomplishments and through the promise of powerful miracles at hand, Branham, like many other healers of his day, were able to convince their audiences that God was moving in a new and a powerful way. Other faith healers who were popular do not settle well with Jack. His desire was to be the biggest and the best. So when he realized Oral Roberts was becoming so popular, he went to Oral Roberts' tent and measured it. And he made one for himself that was bigger. At the age of 33, he had the largest tent in the world, capable of seating 22,000 people.
Multitudes come from over the entire nation to see and hear evangelist Jack Coe, a man whose tremendous faith in God has brought healing to thousands of sick and suffering people. As the evening shadows fall, the people began arriving at the world's largest tent. Hopelessly afflicted people who are often beyond all human aid are brought in wheelchairs and ambulances. What is the meaning of these crutches that we see hanging here? Where did they come from? Keep your dial set on this channel for the next 30 minutes and you will learn the answer as evangelist Jack Coe, who has preached in the world's largest tents and auditoriums, will pray the prayer of faith that will bring God's healing power into their afflicted bodies right before your eyes, enabling them to leave the tent rejoicing and praising God. Join us now as we enter the world's largest tent to see an actual, authentic, unrehearsed service exactly as it happened. And now we present a man of great faith, the Reverend Jack Coe.
Some things about Jack and his preaching. He was anti-medicine, and he told people not to go to doctors. Like Benny Hinn, who places curses on people who disagree with him, he preached that those who stood against him would be struck down dead by God. He was also prone to exaggeration, like so many charismatic leaders of today and of the past. And like so many other so-called God's generals, he was independent and extreme. Like Smith Wigglesworth and Todd Bentley, he often hit people, slapped them, jerked them around.
Lord. Right in there, where it hurts you.
Yeah, right.
Right there! Lord, in thy name, God, loose it. Right in there, where it hurts you.
Yeah, right.
Right there! Lord!
Sometimes he would pull people out of wheelchairs and take crutches away from them. Taking crutches away from people and lifting them violently out of chairs is not always a good practice. It looks fantastic on a stage when people play along or are riding high on adrenaline or placebo. But such actions can be and are from time to time very harmful to the people on stage. Catherine Kuhlman gave 23 names of people healed during her crusades to a doctor, Dr. Nolan, so that he could follow up on those healings. Turns out that none of them were healed. And one girl who had her back brace removed on stage was worse than ever. Because she did not have a brace for the next few days, her back collapsed and she died months later. This was one out of 23 randomly chosen by Catherine Kuhlman herself. How many more people are worse off today because they fall victim to some faith healer using a stage to promote his or her popularity? Like Catherine Kuhlman, Jack likewise focused on wheelchairs, crutches, and braces. His tent was filled with crutches taken from people. Faith healing cannot demonstrate physical healing because real cures rarely, if ever, exist in this world. It existed in Jesus' world. And from time to time, healing can happen. Real cures can happen. But don't expect to see them with these people. Faith healers have perfected the art of using props as wheelchairs, crutches, and braces, and slaying the spirit, none of which really demonstrate any kind of real cure. But those props impress audiences tremendously with nothing more than smoke and mirrors. It convinces audiences that they are seeing real miracles, when in fact, there's nothing of the sort. In 1956, a 3-year-old boy and his mother climbed Jack's stage and sat in a long line for healing. He had polio, Jack Coe told his mother that the boy was healed and convinced her to take off his leg braces. The mother removed the braces from her boy, and he walked around on stage as if he was healed. The audience went wild. The image of a 3-year-old appearing to be miraculously healed was the highlight of any faith healer's wildest dream. Jack bathed in the cheers while the boy walked off the stage. For 3 days, the mother kept those braces off, and she trusted Jack because he, after all, was a man of God. And he warned them against modern medicine and braces. She believed that it was an act of faith to keep those braces off, even when her child complained about the pain. But his pain grew worse. Even though he thought he was getting better on the stage in front of thousands of people, the pain returned with a vengeance. Some would say that he lost his faith, but he was only 3 years old. Some would say that he sinned, but he was just a little kid. As the girl whose back collapsed under Catherine Kuhlman's ministry and so many other nameless people who believed that they were healed on some stage, when pain or bone disintegration returns with such a vengeance, most people blame themselves for lacking faith or for sin, believing what the faith healers tell them. They lose faith. They believe that they sin or demons return. But this boy's mother would not accept that. Reality hit her hard, and she went to the police and filed a complaint against Jack Coe. Jack was actually arrested and put into prison for practicing medicine without a license, but he fought the charges. He claimed to have done nothing wrong. After all, wasn't it the mother's fault for lacking faith? The court date was set and Jack was taken before the judge. The trial received national publicity. Coe was good at demonizing people who disagreed with him. And he claimed that the trial was the result of a conspiracy between atheists, newsmen, and the churches of Christ. Other faith healers and like-minded Christians sent their messages and preached their sermons in support of Jack. How dare this woman challenge God's elect? The judge's hands were tied. Whether he agreed or not, he had to side with Jack. Jack was free to leave. Jack reveled in his victory. He was convinced that God had justified him against an evil attack on his ministry. He preached that God would attack those who stood against him, and he was sure God was on his side. He was put into the fire of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he was delivered. But in heaven, a jury of angels and saints of the Most High sat in heaven's court as it was set up. Only days after Jack Coe was set free, he felt something in his body he had not ever experienced before. At first, he brushed it off, thinking it would go away, but it didn't go away. He continued to preach and continued with his healing crusades. And with every child that he removed braces, and with every person he convinced to throw away life-giving medicine, his body grew worse. He told thousands to stay away from hospitals as a demonstration of their faith. Yet when he was face to face with his own pain, growing pain, when he experienced his own dark times, he turned to the medical profession and he entered into a hospital, thus betraying all those who followed his advice and who died prematurely trying to prove that they had the type of faith he preached. Soon after, his muscles became paralyzed. Only months after he damaged the life of one boy with polio, the very same year he fought a young mother struggling for justice for her 3-year-old son, while his fellow faith healers came to his side in his defense, heaven's sentence was delivered. Jack Coe died of bulbar polio.